Hey, what's up everyone? Nathan here with another discussion video. Been a while since I just did a pure discussion video and nothing else. I thought I would kind of take the time now that we're only 3 weeks out from Scarlet and Violet to finally talk about the game for the first time, I guess, on this channel. I felt like everyone else is talking about it so much. What do I really have to add? And, maybe there's people who have said I'm about to say here, but I do feel like we know enough now about Terrestalization that I can kind of put in my 2 cents, and it's going to tell from the thumbnail. See why I'm a little bit concerned, see why I have some fears. But before we get going, let's talk about it from a casual perspective before I just dump on the idea. Because I think just as a basic, as someone who's excited to play the game in 3 weeks, I think it looks really cool. I think it works with the idea of Pokemon really well. The idea of it being this treasure hunt where you're trying to catch as many Pokemon. I mean, it's kind of genius of them that I'm pretty sure there's now 18 times as many Pokemon to catch now as there was before, because there's just each unique terraform of every Pokemon. So it works from that sense. The aesthetics, I think they're a little bit more controversial. This whole sort of diamond idea with the hats. I don't have super strong feelings one way or the other, but I think I like the idea. I love the idea of the mechanic being very central to Pokemon. What makes Pokemon so unique is that it's just a competitive Pokemon game with rock, paper, scissors. Well, this is something that affects the rock and the scissors and the whatever. It's the typings, of course. So I like that idea. And I like that it's simple. Honestly, you look back to other gimmicks and we all loved Mega Evolutions because it's just simple. Oh, the evolution that also a very core concept of Pokemon? We just do it one more time in battle and it looks super cool. Awesome. We're all on board there. Z moves, generally the same. The move effects could be a little bit complex sometimes. It wasn't quite as intuitive in my opinion, but there's still, just moves. You get a stronger one once per battle. There you go. Slap it on a Pokemon. Now he's got an ultra super gigavolts ultra electric move instead of just a thunderbolt. Cool. I'm on board. Dynamax, I thought that was a little bit more complex. Your Pokemon doubles in size. So it's this huge skyscraper. Not doubles it. Becomes a skyscraper, but none of its stats are changed. It's not any stronger, like on a basic level, despite being huge. It's not any faster. All it is its HP is doubled, and all of its moves change to really funky, weird, like super complex versions of their moves. And like I still, honestly, I'm Master Ball on VGC, and I still could not figure out for the life of me how it works. Like, oh, poison lowers the special. No, poison boosts your special attack. But this one lowers this creates sand. Like, it was just way too complex, especially in the context of VGC, actually, because you would attack something and that lowers its effects. They would use Prankster on you, and like whether like there's just so much to like process in every single turn. It became way too much, in my opinion. Maybe it's just I'm stupid, but I feel like compared to the simplicity of just you evolve again or your move is strong, it's a whole different ballpark. And so I enjoy that Terrestalization is just simple. Change your move. And actually, I guess I should explain, maybe someone doesn't know, I've been doing a little bit of research because I really hope I don't screw anything up in this video, which I still very well could, or things could change, of course, by the time of release. But for those that don't know how Terastallization works, of course, how it works is you can change your Pokemon's type. So if you've got a Pikachu and it's about to be Earthquake, you can change it to Terastallize into a Flying type Pikachu, which is great because now it has a Flying type stab. So if your Pikachu has bounce, for example, now that bounce is powered up just like an electric move would normally be powered up on Pikachu. And actually, I just learned this today, but I'm also pretty sure that this is new information. So you change your Pikachu to Flying type, it has a stab bounce now, but it keeps its regular super powerful Thunderbolts. So it keeps its old stab, which is new as far as I can tell. Or what you can do is you can power up one of your existing typing. So Pikachu can use an electric Terastallization, and now it's essentially an adaptability Thunderbolt, meaning that the stab modifier, same type attacking bonus, goes from 50% extra powerful to twice as powerful. So a Garchomp, but you lose your secondary typing if you had one too. So for a Garchomp, for example, can use a ground Terastallization, and now its Earthquake is super duper powerful. Or again, the Garchomp could use a poison Terastallization, so an incoming Moonblast attacking it won't knock it out. So that's the basic idea. Expressing it just now, still probably a little bit more complicated than the Z moves or the Mega Evolutions, but even then, it was more individual. Once you understand what I just explained, you understand everything. Whereas with, Mega Evolutions, you have to be like, okay, Mega Beedrill, what does he do? Like, there's like individual stuff. So at least it's broad strokes, and I'm sure like as you're 5 hours into the game, we'll have it pretty down pat at that point. And again, on a casual level, I love it. Again, compared to other generational gimmicks, I think it's probably one of the better ones we've seen in a while. It's probably my favorite that I've heard of. I wasn't a fan of Z moves, actually. I'll get into that later. But it's one of my favorites since Mega Evolutions. I like the idea. However, the one thing that I didn't mention there, and the big reason why it scares me in competitive play, certainly for singles at least, is the idea that any Pokemon can Terrastallize at any time. And that means that it's not limited to an item, like it is with Z moves and Mega Evolutions. And every Pokemon could theoretically have their own Terastallization and could do it at any point at the drop of a hat. I think that's terrifying. This randomness isn't the right word, I guess, but this unpredictability of it just being able to drop at any point really frightens me. Because again, if we're going to compare it once again to previous generations here, Mega Evolutions were very predictable. Not a ton of Pokemon had them. You could normally look at the team and be like, okay, Garchomp's the only Pokemon that can Mega Evolve on their team. That's fine, no worries. In fact, if I go into the replay thing on Showdown and I search Gen 6 OU and I find any game, I guarantee I'll be able to tell who the Mega Evolution could not connect. Oh, that's excellent. Thank you very much. If it's down right now, I'm going to cry. Okay, so the Mega on this team, sometimes it's, I was going to say, absolute worst, it becomes a mix-up between 3 Pokemon like it is for the Mayo here. So this is the worst case scenario where you can go, okay, Mega Garchomp, Mega Metagross. I actually believe Metagross is banned, but that doesn't really matter for our conversation here. Or Latios. Whereas on Eric's team, it can be Salamence. Again, it's banned, so we know it's not that. Or it can be the Venusaur. So that's what it boils down to. But even then, once again, you can determine things like, you know, team roles. So you can look at this team here and be like, okay, you know, Eric's team is really slow. So again, we know for a fact that the Salamence isn't the Mega type because it's banned. But even if it wasn't, even if it's like day 1 Gen 6 OU, you can probably tell because like this team is so slow. They need a Scarfer. I guess you can kind of get by with just the Tornadus because it's so fast. But it would have to be Extra, who's a mediocre Scarfer, or the Salamence. And more importantly, you can just be like, Venusaur does not offer much when it's not Mega'd. So it kind of has to be Venusaur in this situation. And same if you go for Mayo here, you know, this team needs a wall breaker. So it could be, it's probably not going to be, actually it could be Garchomp. This team is way more hard to determine from that sense. Is Mega Latios banned? No, I think Mega Latios is okay. Let's actually, I'm gonna, Mega Metagross is allowed? Oh, that's crazy. Was it just in Gen 7? Oh, I'm just ousting myself for an idiot here right now. But okay, but point being, you can still determine from abilities. Like I can go back and I can look at the damage on the Surf from the Latios here. Then comes Latios. I can look at the Latios, it clicks Surf, and I can realize, holy crap, that's an absolute nuke. That has to be choice specs. So again, this is about as bad a situation as you'll find. I probably chose a bad replay because this is about as ambiguous as you'll find. But even then, at absolute worst, it's narrowed down to 3 Pokemon, and I can still use contextual clues like guessing who the Scarfer is. I can guess, you know, that Garchomp used Stealth Rocks. If it was the Mega Evolution, it would have done it immediately. There's no reason for them to hold on to it. I can tell from contextual stuff. I can tell from the damage of this choice specs that, holy crap, this Metagross is about to be banned, and I can evolve my strategy and gameplay around that. Same thing went for Z moves. Z moves, again, limited to item. So, you know, if Heatran swaps in and it goes in Stealth Rocks and it doesn't gain recovery from leftovers, I can go, okay, you know, it doesn't have leftovers. It must be like a Z Bloom Doom. Let's try to say that 10 times fast. So I won't go to my Gastrodon. Like there's a lot of strategy you can evaluate around it. It kind of rewards strategy. And also it rewards learning about the metagame and it rewards learning more. So I alluded to this earlier. I really hated Sun and Moon metagame at first because it felt similar to what I'm worried Terrestalization will feel like, where you're just playing a game and all of a sudden this random Pokemon just blows you up out of nowhere. You're like, I thought that was a regular Garchomp, but it was Z Continental Crush, and now my, you know, Skarmory is dead for no reason. I lose the game. It was so frustrating. It felt like there was no prediction around it. But again, you start to look at a team, you start to go, well, let's do that. We'll go to here, go to Gen 7 OU. We'll see if I can predict it. This is a guy who does not play a lot of Gen 7 OU. So it could be a ZU, but it is probably Mega Garchomp. Oh, Mega Mawile. What am I saying? But Mega Mawile. It is probably your Toxic Orb. I feel like you're probably the Z, and you're probably Ash Gren. Whereas we look at this team, again, Mega Mawile. There's no Mega on this team, which is fun. You don't see that too often. And Z move is probably either Landorus. This team does not love Gastrodon Beyond, Tangrowth. Then you get Toxed even. Could be Lele, which I kind of doubt. Again, I don't play this tier a lot. I think it's probably one of these two. So again, let's see if I'm right. I think this Garchomp is definitely the Z move. I think they probably have a Z. No, they're leftovers. Okay, so we know that much. Now it kind of confirms it's either Gren or Tapu Koko here. Could be Greninja. Could be Greninja. Do you see a Z move here? Ooh, we don't know. It doesn't really matter. I'm getting lost in the sauce here. But the point is, there is still strategy. And this is a guy who, for the millionth time, has not played much Gen 7, certainly not recently. And I can still kind of piece this out. There's a strategy to it. Whereas, again, there's no strategy to Terrestalization. There is, at any point, at any time, there's no item restriction. Anyone could do it, and you don't know when. And they could just snap. They could be a bad player and do it at a bad time and blow you up regardless for it. And you can be like, well, how was I supposed to know that they would use a random ass, Z poison at this point, and it's the perfect answer for my team, and I get swept and lose about it? So that could happen. Or it could be a very reasonable situation where, let's say, okay, so I just started a game against myself here, and actually I'll reverse it here. I'm just playing against myself like a salty showdown sweep YouTuber. Shots fired. So you got like a Ferrothorn against a Garchomp here. Let's say you're this, and this is Gen 9, and Terastallization exists, and the Garchomp Swords dances. We'll advance to turn the Garchomp Swords dances when we go for spikes. Okay, there are now 3 completely different plays you can make based on how they Terastallize. Because they Swords Dance, you can probably figure out they're probably going to Terastallize. So if they're going to Terastallize into Mono Ground and power up their Ground Stab, which would probably Oko a Ferrothorn at +2 with Life Orb, in which case you should go to Corviknight. Great. So you go to Corviknight answers it fine. In fact, but if they go to a Fire Terastallization and power up their Fire Fang, which will Oko a Corviknight swap in, then Corviknight and Ferrothorn are the bad swap ins, and you should in fact go to your Slowbro. Even a Tyranitar would be better than that. Okay, fair enough. But what if they Dragon Terastallize? Well, then you go to Corviknight or Ferrothorn, not Slowbro. Slowbro's the worst answer at that point, and there's no correct answer. I, as the player, there's nothing I can do about it, and it's all based on just the arbitrary whim of what my opponent's doing. Sure, it'll get to a point, I'm sure in the metagame, where you can go, okay, my opponent really struggles against Corviknight, so I can figure out that's probably, a Fire Terastallization. But we don't know is this concern. It's all a guess, and it's never going to be secure. And you can even add in mix-ups if you get to that high level, future hypothetical situation. Or let's talk about Gyarados. Gyarados is weak to electric moves, so you go in with a Volt Switch against it, and boom, it Terastallizes, and now it has a Stab Earthquake. It's immune to your Volt Switch. Again, I'm not sure if there's a last detail, but as far as we know, it still keeps its Stab Waterfall and Stab Bounce or whatever flying type move it has. Or let's say you predict that it's that thing, you see a Gyarados, they Dragon Dance on you, you think, okay, this is definitely going to be Ground Terastallization. I gotta swap out to my Swampert, or a better one would be my Gastrodon or my Seismitoad. Great, well, they Terastallize into Grass Gyarados, because Grass also resists electric instead of being 4 times weak to it, and now their Power Whip is powered up. Or once again, what if they just transform into like Water Terastallization, so only 1 time weak to it, and now they just absolutely mow through your Swampert that swaps in or whatever. Like there's no prediction, and it's driving me crazy just thinking about it, let alone playing this metagame. It could happen at any point. It could happen, any of the Pokemon could do it. This Tyranitar could become a flying type. This Slowbro could become a psychic type for strong features. We don't know. This Excadrill could turn into a normal type for Stab Rapid Spins. Like it isn't nothing. There's no prediction. There's no counterplay for it when you don't know what's going to happen. It's the same thing as Dynamax. Dynamax, what happened is it could happen at any point. People complained about banning Dynamax because it was a fair mechanic, blah, blah, blah. Well, the problem was it became like the side of the game was only who could Dynamax more effectively, because the sweeps were so uncontrollable and so unpredictable, because it could happen at any point from any Pokemon. You could just have 6 potential Dynamax sweepers on your team, try to sweep whichever one is the best bet based on your opponent's setup. You'd be like, okay, well, looking at their team right now, I guess it's my Zapdos. I'm going to just go, Dynamax Zapdos, boost my speed with Z Air Max, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just boost that. And that's what became the game. It was like a game of freaking Quidditch, where the game was really just to decide who could get the snitch. And they're just playing freaking wizard basketball over there. And it doesn't matter, because whoever catches the snitch wins. Same thing with Dynamax, because whoever just Dynamaxes better wins. And I just feel like with this, again, it just, knowing it's so flippant, it can happen at any point, it scares me, because there's no strategy to it, is my point. What I love about Pokemon is, even though it's luck-based, even though you can get 3 times with Stone Edge, well, you miss, you know, 4 of your Draco Meteors. It's strategy. You can look at my opponent's Pokemon and risk assess and go, okay, Weavile, you know, I really got to keep this Corviknight healthy because he can totally, you know, with a low kick sweep my team otherwise. And, you know, there's planning that goes into it, right? That's what separates a good player from a bad player, is the planning to look into their team and go, okay, Urshifu, wow, I got to keep Slowbro healthy for you. Magnezone, I got to keep Ferrothorn and Excadrill healthy. Slowking Galar, I got to keep Tyranitar healthy. The planning that goes in advance and like assessing risks. Well, guess what? All of these guys are massive risks, knowing that anyone can Terrastallize at any point. And the good news is that, well, maybe it's bad news, depending how you think about it, is that it's not like Dynamax. And the fact that Dynamax is an instantaneous and utterly transformative thing on the battle. Like, that decides the whole battle is who has Dynamax, who doesn't, who uses it at which point. It's just a resource management game of who can keep their Dynamax the longest. Whereas, and it gets worse as it goes on, obviously, but you try to get a demonstrable advantage and try to win from there. Whereas Terastallization is going to have a strong impact at first. That turn of reveal is going to be really effective. I think it's probably going to be used on sweepers the most because it's going to affect their offense so significantly from the stab perspective. But for the most part, it's going to go from that. And then from that point forward, the utility of the Terastallation diminishes, because once you know what the Garchomp for a fact is, yes, you might lose your Ferrothorn because it was a stupid fire Terastallize. At least I know that going forward. I know next time this Garchomp comes in that Slowbro is absolutely the answer, and definitely not my Corviknight. So there's something to be said for that. But the concern is that just kind of lends itself towards a stall play style. And I'm not one of those people who thinks that stall is objectively bad, but if stall becomes the meta game, it's a little bit concerning, where if all of 6 of my Pokemon are Regenerator Mons and they all have recovery moves and they can all, you know, all of the privilege of being able to be wrong about what the opponent's Terastallization is and being able to adjust around it, and that's okay. It might end up just being, honestly, like, you know, I use the example of Gyarados, like Gyarados and 5 freaking Stall Mons who can just weather the storm of whatever their Terastallization is. That's a wild conjecture. I have no idea what the meta is going to look like. I have no idea if there's going to be enough stall Pokemon to weather that play style. But I just worry about something that's so unpredictable going forward. And it's why I'm scared about this tier. The reason I made this video actually is Pokey made a tweet like just yesterday, which I loved, which is just like all this hype about Terastallization, and pretty much said all this hype about Terastallization, all this talk, and it's going to be really overpowered and get banned in like 3 weeks. And I'm like, absolutely agreed. Like, it's just, I just think that if they limited it so that you only, like, going into the battle, I only had 1 Pokemon who could Terastallize, and even better, if I had an item, you know, I knock off the Zapdos, nothing happens, I go, okay, Zapdos is the Terastallizer, I got it. Instead of just having this massive, like, any of these Pokemon could be anything at any point. That's like an insane variable amount of things here. I don't know. I've just ranted for the last 5 minutes. I had a lot of ideas of what I was going to say, but it's gotten to me just screaming. But that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoy. I do really want to see what you all think about the tier below. I'm sure it was too negative, but you know, sometimes I've got good ideas when it comes to metagames, you know? You know, for every time that I say that Blaziken is too strong, it should be banned right when it got released, I called out Dracovish immediately and I said it should get banned. So, you know, maybe I know a little something about these tiers. Probably not. That's the end of this video. I hope you guys, again, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm hoping to see some insight, and I'm definitely going to talk about this more going forward, and I'll maybe feature some arguments you guys highlighted. And actually, I really want to make a video talking about Terastallization specifically in the monotype format. I'm sure a lot of people clicked on this expecting me to do a monotype specific rant on this format, and I really just didn't really want to get into it quite yet, but I will eventually. Until then, see you later.